and I'm gonna tweet it and then double check the audio. Yep, it works. Friends, it's happening. And hopefully people just start joining. And I'll get my little script open. Every beginning of the show looks like this. Talking to myself. Okay, friends, let's get started. Welcome back to Attack the Pantry. I am Jenn Vega. This stream is a deep dive into ingredients, cooking techniques, and recipes to help you cook for yourself during this horrible quarantine and, for the rest of your adult life. Last time on the show, we talked to my friends Christopher Hastings and Carly Monardo about eating yard to table or growing your own food at home. You can watch all of the past clips here on my channel if you click on videos. The entire archive is located at youtube.com/JENNDLV, and you can make sure to subscribe there. I am a Twitch affiliate. That means I get a little bit of pocket change with every subscription and every cheer and bits in the chat. But if you don't have the money for that, but you have an Amazon Prime account, you can gift a subscription to your favorite creators every month. Hopefully that's me this month. I don't know. But if you want to participate in that way, you get a little crown next to your name in the chat when you click on that button that says gift a sub. Lots of really, really good links below to support the stream, like Patreon and Etsy and social media stuff. But the big way to help us out is to let people know that you're watching right now so they can tune in and learn a bunch of stuff from us. And yeah, let's just get the party started, my friends. Oh, we've got a lot of people in the chat for now. Please tell us hello. Prime subs. Yes, Diego. Welcome. Good to see you. Sorry I missed your stream earlier. But I have a guest today. And hello, guest. Who are you? What do you do? And where are you from right now? Where are you located?
Hello. My name is Ananda, and I'm a designer and cook, and I'm located in Toronto, Canada. When I say like I design, I work within the realms of like community science, freelance industrial design, and like technical illustrations. And then when I say cook, I'm referring to like working in community kitchens, some professional kitchen settings, foraging, fermenting, and food R&D. Yeah.
There are so many good words in there, especially food R&D. Like that is something that I want to get into, or at least I identify with part of it as a recipe developer for publishing. So we're gonna have to expand on that later in the chat. But how did we meet? Do you remember?
I remember finding you, I think, through like the Baby Castles community.
Right.
And then I looked more into your history and I was like, oh, like Jenn is really into like, has like a history with music and like games and like also really loves food. And then I was like, I like all of these things, but I also want to know like how Jenn like professionalized sort of like her experiences. And so then I reached out and we met at Mountain Province Cafe, and I showed you briefly this like menu that I was making for my friend's wedding that I was catering, and you gave me some tips, and yeah, that's how we met. It was really nice. And then you gave me like this little envelope with like CDs and DVDs, because it was like you were part of like the chiptune scene, and you still are. And you threw a festival that I backpacked to, like I went couch surfing in New York, and then I was like, oh, like low level festival, like I love chiptunes. Yeah.
I love that our worlds collided and we didn't really know it until later, way later. But yes, all of that is true. And what a wonderful little afternoon we had. We got some people in the chat saying hello. Seven Bean Salad says hello. Rufo says hi. And Gio says, woo, more Canadians. I think you're my first Canadian guest. What an honor.
Nice. Lovely.
Yes, chiptune. I miss it very much. I hope that we can start putting shows on again in New York City. It is a little scary that we're opening up on May 19th, which feels weird. I'm like happy, but on the other hand, like not everyone in New York has been vaccinated yet. So I think it might be a little too soon. I don't know how I feel about all that. But yeah, lots of activity happening and hoping that we can do more events in the future. But for now, the next part of the show, I'm going to share my screen, and I promise you there's no nasty stuff. We are still visible. And so I open up these folders, and for anyone who's new in the chat, we like to feature people, and the things that you've cooked, or if you're at the farmer's market or at the grocery store and you don't know what something is and you don't know how to cook with it, take a picture, send it to me. My username is Randwiches on Instagram and Twitter. You can tag me or DM me, and I'll help you out, or we will show off the food that you've cooked, and root for you, because it's really fun. So here we go. Bear Claw Raw sent over this really lovely looking pizza. It's true that pizza does come in all shapes and sizes. This is something that we talked about last week with grilling, but this one looks unique in that it has a braided crust. Do you have any experience with pizza?
My pizza dough does not come out into looking like a beautiful pizza shape. The last time I made
Okay.
a pizza with someone, we put the dough down and it looked like Elf's head.
An elf's head, like at a
No,
point.
no, like Elf, like the character that eats cats. Like it
Oh.
wasn't a round shape. It just looked like the silhouette of his head.
Amazing. I'm a fan of lopsided pizzas. I don't think I could really get that perfect circle unless we had like a cutter or like a template on a pizza peel or something like that. I'm just, I don't really, I'm not too precious about it, unless it's like a Detroit pizza, which is in a rectangular pan and that rises to fill the pan. So we
Mhm.
don't really have to worry about the shape exactly, because you can always just piano finger your way into the corners. But thank you, Bear Claw, for sending this one in. It looks delicious. It looks like there's artichoke and mushroom, cheese, and peppers. My mouth is watering. This is always a mistake that I make. I don't like keep snacks as we're talking about tons of food. But thanks for sending this one in. This one is not uh anything to do with food. It's from Mr. Sean Barrett on Instagram. James sent this one. James is like king of memes and knows that I am learning how to skateboard. And the caption is, "This is our skate park." And they're like, "You don't know anything about skating." And then like they're just skating on a telephone wire. It's very funny. I'll share the link in the chat when we stop sharing. I've got it in another window over there. But thanks, James, for always cheering me up with these skate memes. I'm always a fan. JV sent a few things in. Check this out. Have you ever had a waffle sandwich? Hmm.
I don't think I've like definitely put a forkful of waffle with something. Maybe that counts
Yes.
as a bite of a waffle sandwich that doesn't actually exist. I don't know.
Yeah, like a proto slider,
Yeah,
but on a
pros.
on a fork. It looks like scrambled egg and bacon in here. Not sure if there's cheese. JV, if you're in the chat, let us know. Um, but this is something I actually made on, well, not necessarily directly, but when I was on one of Guy Fieri's shows, I did a ice cream sandwich with the waffle on the outside,
Damn.
which was really fun.
Something I do want to try though is like a mochi waffle, like getting the bricks of mochi and putting it in a non-stick waffle iron.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That sounds really fun. We catching up here in the chat. Seven Bean Salad says used to make a lot of Eggo sandwiches. Oh, so this is a thing for sure. Bear Claw says I get chicken and waffle sandwiches. Yes, I haven't had one in forever. They're usually served very separate though at the restaurant. Oh, we've got Zilla in the chat. Welcome, Zilla. Nice to see you. And Carl's here in the chat. I feel like you know Carl, right?
Yes, yes, I do from
Yeah.
Baby Castles.
Yeah,
Hello, Carl.
Carl says they used to have a waffle sandwich at Dunkin' Donuts. That was amazing. Good intel. I did not know this. They don't carry it anymore. It sucks. We have so many Dunkin' Donuts here in Brooklyn. Do you have that there, or is it a different brand?
I don't know. I feel like we had it once, but one thing that I really love there that I can't get here is they have the blueberry flavoring. So when you get a cup of black coffee with the blueberry like flavor in it, I don't know why. It's really
Syrup.
phenomenal. Yeah, it's great.
I'm a fan of blueberry also, like especially in donuts. I I,
Mm.
I haven't had that in donuts and muffins. I'm really into that. Um, Thanks, JV, for sending this one in. Actually, wait, JV has another. I think this was a video. I don't think you're going to be able to hear it because I didn't route the sound this way, but it is a chicken and vegetable tomato saute. Very steamy. That's a that's an Instagram trick that I learned over the years, is that you gotta start with the phone way back when you're opening a steamy thing, because you'll steam your camera. But delicious. It's great to see JV cooking so much this week. Lori sent in a post from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I'll read it for everybody who may not be able to see so well in the chat. Eugenia Kim established her company in 1997 after several New York boutiques ordered a hat she was wearing that she made in her millinery class at the Parsons School of Design. These two whimsical hats, shaped like a fried egg and a slice of bread, topped by a square pat of butter, are not typical of her aesthetic, which usually offers a playful twist on classic headwear style. Yes, wonderful. This is something I would buy.
How many egg-themed costume items do you own, Jenn?
This is a good question, and probably too many answers for this stream. But I have a lot of good. Excuse me, asthma. Sorry, one second. I got my little nerd inhaler. Gotta use this. Thank you. I have a lot of Gudetama apparel and stuffed animals. So I have like stuffed depressed egg that shakes his butt when you squeeze it. I've got a egg tape measure. I've got egg hats. I run a magazine called Put a Egg on It. So we also have merch from that. I have a shirt that's a print all over of eggs. I don't know. I've got patches, I've got tote bag, all sorts. So people keep sending me stuff like this. Can we get some eggs in the chat, my friends? I know Zilla just put a bunch of eggs in the chat. But if you're a member of my channel, you will get a pixel egg designed by Rachel Viola, which is amazing. But I love these egg hats. If you ever spot an egg hat in the wild, please take a photo and send it over. Actually, we'll just skip to the other egg thing. Ralph sent this one in. This is from the Etsy shop local story. It is a fried egg mat for the bathroom. It's very cute, but I don't know how I feel about rubbing my feet on eggs in the morning.
I love the little like glistening yolk.
Yeah, whenever I doodle, like, so when I sign cookbooks and mail them out, I try to doodle an egg on the first page, and I have to get that little shine, but it's really hard when my Sharpie is like so thick, you know? So maybe I gotta get another pen. Yes, thank you for all the eggs in the chat. Seven bean salad. Bard's Gambit, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks, Ralph, for sending this one in. I'm probably gonna buy it. Although I don't know if it will fit in my bathroom. My bathroom is quite small.
I feel like it would look like super awesome on a wall too.
Yeah. I do have an egg from my old installation that I probably should hang somewhere, but I haven't figured out how do you mount something that's not exactly what's it called? It's not stiff. Like my egg sculpture is fabric with
You
a
put
certain
you
weight,
put
you
something
know.
rigid behind it and you kind of like tack it onto the rigid surface and then mount the rigid thing.
This is why. Okay, thank you. I'm glad I asked you. This is from Phil, who is grilling ramps. I haven't gotten any hold of any ramps yet this season. Have you been able to play with any?
I've seen them, but then I'm just like, I'm always like, oh, I could just like find them. I don't need to buy them. And then I never end up going outside to look for them. So I always end up missing that window.
Yeah, I feel like I might miss the window as well. Like I haven't my fridge is so full from work projects that I haven't really been able to go to the farmer's market to buy things for fun. So I'm just eating all of my projects, so I can't really get the ramps yet. Hopefully, maybe this weekend I'll get some ramps. Oh, Matt, not here for terribly long, just popping in. Well, I'm glad to see you. Glad that you are here and that you made some time. But yeah, I've grilled ramps before. I've smoked them before. They're quite delicate. One way, besides the direct grilling, that you can cook these is to give them a light like sear on the direct heat, and then wrap them in maybe newspaper or foil and let them steam on a cold part of the grill, and they will caramelize the ends and then wilt the greens, which is super fun. And it'll still get a little bit of smoky flavor. Mm-hmm. What is have you like what do you have a favorite thing you've ever made with ramps? It's
They're
okay if you
not my
don't.
favorite like found foraging item, but they're like tasty and fun, but
What is
they're not
your
my favorite.
what is your
Um,
favorite found foraging item?
I really like spruce tips, mostly because I really like making juice from it, or like a drink, like blending it with
Hmm.
some sugar and water, and then like passing it through a sieve, and then you just get this lovely kind of minty, sour, refreshing, yeah, drink. I love that.
He's sour. It sounds like a mojito without the sugar.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. It's like a weird, it's like nature's mojito. But I
I
feel like
love
with
that.
ramps, like with ramps, it's like I've tasted this onion garlicky flavor before. I can get that anytime, but
It's
you
true.
know, yeah.
Yeah, I do. It is funny how people really idolize the ramp. And while most people are unable to get it, we can still achieve a lot of the same things with green onion, spring onion, scallions,
Mhm.
garlic shoots, chives. I do get it. They are quite perfumey and interesting, but maybe, wouldn't break my back or break the bank to get it.
Mhm.
Let's see. And then lastly, we have Shmas, who sent over this lovely looking lemon yogurt cake with a shortbread crust. He said that the texture was very close to cheesecake, uh, in that sort of dense creaminess, which sounds really fun. But this is a lovely photo, like staged with like the wrinkled fabric behind it. Uh, for everyone else though that's watching, please don't feel intimidated about cooking photos. Please send them in. I love to see what you're working on. You don't have to style it. It could even be a little dark, a little blurry. It's fine. We're all cooking. We all got butter on our fingers and tracking it all over our phones. It's great. But this looks lovely, Shmas. Thank you very much for sending it in. Let's check out the things I did this week. So it's a combination of activities and food. So I had a little Twitter rant last week about payments. It mostly stemmed from the fact that I finally qualified for free health insurance in New York State. And most people don't know that that's available to them. If you go into the health insurance marketplace, you put in, your expected income for the year. And because of the pandemic, I did not know what my expected income was, so I put it off for a little too long. Don't be like me. Please go pursue your health insurance. Uh, but I found out after I did my taxes that I actually did qualify, and I went through a lot of hoops. It's a lot of phone calls, but I got some health insurance. But it made me think a lot about how systemically freelancers here in the US, it's very unsustainable to do what we do, because as I said here in this quote, payment process in publishing and media make it wildly difficult to get ahead ever. You love cookbooks? I do too, but did you know authors get paid by the milestone? You get money upon signing, after you turn in X amount of recipes. Sometimes it's half of them. And then again, when the book comes out. So that means you're not seeing the full paycheck for at least a year, and sometimes 2 years for some people. So I take on freelancing to offset this. And then even when you freelance, there's something called net 30 or net 45 or net 90, meaning that the company has 90 days to pay you back. And you're just sitting there like, paid for all these ingredients. This is very difficult. But yeah, just kind of trying to blow the lid on people's perception of the glamorous lifestyle that I have. I don't have a glamorous lifestyle at all. And the things that you love, like cookbooks and like blogs and podcasts and streams, all of this stuff costs money to make. And I just want to make sure people know that the creators are like, support your favorite creators, no matter like what it is, no matter how small or how big they are. Look into it, man. Uh, what else is happening? I went to my first restaurant in Manhattan last week with a friend who was visiting from out of town. and it was a Korean tasting menu that was actually pretty affordable. It's called Attaboy, Atoboy, and it was lovely. And the kind of meal, like, I don't know, have you ever gone to a tasting menu place?
Wait, oh, wait, like in general?
Yes, in
Or
general.
yes, I have, yeah, very small handful of times. Yeah.
And you felt like pretty full or like overwhelmed or like,
I mean, I had some snacks later.
oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's either that like you haven't eaten enough or that it was way too much. And this one I felt like Attaboy was just right. It was like three Goldilocks, three bears, just right. Very lovely. This is an uni dish with oh my god, what was underneath? It looks like quinoa, and I feel like it was an egg custard underneath. I might be wrong. I don't remember. But I ate the whole thing and it was great. What else? My friend told me to print this out and put it on my mirror to make myself feel better. And I did. I did. I did. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. Yes, I am cringe, but I am free. Thank you for that affirmation. I should just get in the habit of printing memes and taping them up every week. It feels good, man. Feels good. Catching up here in the chat. Yay, health insurance. Net 90 is rough, says Seven Bean Salad, especially if you're paying other people on a project. Yeah, that's true. Gwem says a tasting menu is a bit like going to an art gallery, I've always thought. The ambiance does play into it. That is kind of what you are paying for, which is the service and the environment. I needed some comfort nachos this week. I've had a really stressful bunch of deadlines, but it's white cheddar, pickled carrots, pickled garlic, cilantro, Aleppo pepper, yogurt, and I think that's it. I did a hot sauce that I made as well. But I didn't really have any meats around, so I'm kind of not really eating as much meats these days, but needed a comfort snack. Ananda, do you have a stress snack that you kind of like, stop everything, I need to eat this?
Yeah, pogos. I really like pogos, and then when I finish the stick, the crispy bit at the end. I had a really stressful week, and then my boyfriend surprised me with a box of pogos, and that like lifted off a lot of stress.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
so sweet. Are
There's
pogos,
something like yeah.
are those the chocolate covered? Wait, I don't know. I might be misunderstanding which
Oh,
ones they are. Which one is
oh wait,
that?
I don't know if I feel like they exist in America. They're the frozen corn dogs.
I thought you were talking about like a cookie. You're talking about corn dogs.
Yeah. You're like chocolate, and I'm like, this is.
No, absolutely wrong. Okay, so they're corn dogs.
Yeah, I like frozen corn dogs.
I do too. I love frozen corn dogs. It's amazing. Pogos. Okay. I mean, chocolate corn dogs could be a thing. Maybe. Maybe.
Mhm.
Catching up here. Hey, Meklo is in the chat. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. Yes to corn dogs, says Seven Bean Salad. A few bad dudes is here, says chocolate corn dogs. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try. The issue is that chocolate burns very easily, so we need some kind of insulating layer or double the layer of the corn batter on the outside. Okay. We have an interruption here. Ananda, I didn't explain this to you earlier, but the people in the chat, they gather channel points. The longer they're in there, the more chats they do, they get points, and you can redeem them for making us do things like posture check or stretch or take a drink of water. But specifically for me, Seven Bean Salad just redeemed taste test, which is I will go to my fridge, grab a random condiment and eat it in front of you while we keep talking. So I'll be right back. Sorry, 1 second.
I'm excited. Also, Jen. Oh.
Okay. This week, it's quite fancy this week because it is In the US, we have a specialty food association, and it usually culminates at this big conference at the Javits Center, or this big convention center in
I
Manhattan. It's
know
called,
of it.
yeah, the Fancy Food
Yeah.
Show. So
Yeah.
I've been a judge for the Fancy Food Show for the last like 3 years, and because it's all virtual this year, people are mailing me samples or coming by and dropping off samples, and I've got the fanciest thing. I've got Regalis caviar, the Grandeur Astera.
What?
I know, I
Is
know.
caviar a condiment? I guess like I consider egg a condiment, so I guess caviar is a condiment.
Well, in specialty food, there are like all sorts of categories of what people are buying and selling and exporting and importing. And so seafood is a minor category. It's not like fish butchery, but it's more prepackaged fish
Mm.
situation. So like smoked, tinned, and jarred. um, have you ever like been to like a caviar tasting or like a caviar situation restaurant thing?
No, I haven't, but it's on my to-do list, but then it's never been like a wildly sought after dream that I have.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you. It also wasn't exactly for me, but I have like a growing interest in it. It's not something that you really cook with, because it goes on top, it finishes a lot of stuff. Um, but the things I've learned recently at caviar tastings or caviar samplings is the spoon matters. So most of the time, a vendor will have mother of pearl, because it conducts the right temperature. It A metal sort of reacts weird with fish. That can change the salinity or the chemical makeup of it. And I also learned that you don't eat it like a normal spoon. You know how concave a spoon is like this. You actually eat it upside down like this and put it straight on your tongue. So I'm gonna do that. Ah.
I'd be afraid of like dropping all of it, but I guess it all sticks together.
It all sticks together. And then what you do is you press all of it from your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and then you do the retronasal. And then you get that like complex bouquet of like what the caviar tastes like. And so they can range in saltiness or salinity. For those of you in the chat who don't know what that is, I'm gonna keep eating this because it's expensive and
What are you
delicious.
getting? What are you getting from that bite, Jen? What
Um,
bouquet?
what is this fish bouquet? fish bouquet. Mhm. Okay. Mm. So there's a lot of umami. I would say that like it has like this complexity of like a fried food a little bit, like that
Mm.
savoriness when you're biting into like a French fry or like a thick cut potato chip like you would get at a restaurant, not from like a bag. Um yeah. Like it's lightly beefy, like not like you're biting into a steak, but tallow, that tallowy like aroma you get sometimes from beef. Um, yeah, I'll have to look at the tasting notes, but that's kind of what I'm getting like right now. Thank you, Seven Bean Salad, for redeeming your taste test. I mean, lucky me, I get to eat caviar on the stream. Yeah, that was like the fanciest snack time I've ever had on this show. Anyway, lots of nachos this week because I was just a little stressed about deadlines. This is really fun. So for a cookbook that I'm working on, I had to learn how to make elephant ears. Have you ever heard of an elephant ear?
I thought they were like the crispy cookies that like did the.
That could be one version, but I think at parades and carnivals here, like I think more in the South and not necessarily up here, because I had never heard of them before. It is a giant, like elephant ear sized fry bread, deep fried, and then you sprinkle it with sugar. But I played around with the recipe and found some savory ways to treat it. So I made like a white cheddar powder, and then I used all the leftovers as like kind of my bread for the week. They're basically like pita donuts because they still inflate. They got a pocket, which is really fun. And then on the side here, I have a smoked trout dip that I was serving with it to some friends last week. Uh, learned something new. Oh, James has redeemed stretch in our chat. So if you don't mind, Ananda, if you could just give yourself a little stretch. They're looking out for our well-being here, and that we've been sedentary this this week. Thank you, James, for looking out. And then I went to Manhattan for the second time ever yesterday, and had to go get the red velvet cupcake from Billy's Bakery. For those of you who don't know what that is, Billy's is an offshoot of the famous Magnolia Bakery that was on Sex and the City. And honestly, I think their cupcakes are a little dry. Uh, I'm not usually going after cupcakes. I want the banana pudding, but they ran out.
No, how do they run out? It's like their staple.
I know. I got there like 10 minutes before they closed.
Mm.
So I was like, I guess I'll have a cupcake. I guess I'll have a cupcake. Not my first choice. But something I learned in the process of working on these cookbooks is I did not know that red velvet is basically a red chocolate cake. It is constituted of cocoa, and it pairs really well with the cream cheese. And so devil's food cake, which is essentially the same recipe, was dyed red to be more friendly and more, I think it was like had a lot of roots in like racism, like making something so dark and chocolatey more palatable to the people who were making cakes at home. So that is like the history of red velvet, apparently. But still delicious and a valid combination. Got to love it. I know, Chris. Welcome to the chat, Charlie. Nice to meet you. Glad you were here. What else did I do this week? Okay, this is also a weird snack. I was channeling our topic without really knowing what our topic kind of was in its full definition. But this is still that fry bread that I've been playing with all week. And I had a dish where I had a bed of yogurt, smoked carrots, and a improv chimichurri pico de gallo combination situation. So you can still see like there's a big disc of this smoked carrot in one end, and then the rest of the yogurt and cilantro stems that I didn't want to waste, and then a big smattering of Aleppo pepper. And that was a snack the other day. I don't think I would ever, I would make it again if I had all the things again, but it'd be weird to try to recreate this snack because
I also have to say, I love the plating, like the really loud floral plate and your pants.
And my pants.
Yeah.
Just chaos all the way down. Thank you. Yeah, but it was delicious. I wish I could make it again, but I ate all the things. And I think those are all the things that I did this week. Friends, if you are new to the show and never seen it before, during this segment, we like to share your cooking photos, your food memes, and other things you see on the internet. So please do tag me, Randwiches, on Instagram and Twitter to be featured next week. But Ananda, let's look at what you sent in. Is there anything you'd like to address first?
Oh boy, you can pick any one of them at random.
Okay, let's start at the top. What is this?
This is a regular old fish. It looks like a regular old fish dumpling, and that's because it is. But the context of where I've made it, I was like foraging in Finland, and I was kind of in the middle of the countryside, and I was like, I would like Chinese food. There are no Chinese restaurants.
Oh, wow.
So I was working with a catering company, and so there's like a bunch of leftover like pike, but they were still whole. So I had to like gut them and like take their bone, debone them. Pike have like a shit ton of bones. And then I used like foraged. I think I did use ramps actually.
After all you said earlier.
after my ramp trash talking. So and like garlic to make the filling. And then I made the dough there. And yeah, it was just more like part of this process that I promised myself of like, no matter where I am in the world, even if there isn't a Chinese restaurant, I could always like give myself Chinese food. And this is like
that. That's so cool. I don't think I've ever seen a fish dumpling wrapped. Like usually I see
Mhm.
fish balls. That's it,
Yeah.
but I've never seen them wrapped. I love that like crispiness here you have on the sear.
Yeah, whitefish dumplings they're not very common, but they're like one of my favorite kinds of dumplings.
Oh, so good. So good. Charlie says those dumplings look delicious, Ananda.
Thank you.
Um, in the previous comment here from Charlie, I tried to give up chocolate once for Lent and then I ate red velvet cake 2 weeks in. Then someone promptly informed me that red velvet was basically chocolate. And I was shocked. Yeah, you didn't know. I don't think God is going to punish you for that. Also, I went vegan for Lent a couple times and I don't think I don't think anyone up there is, is keeping a tally of what everyone gave up for Lent. They're kind of like waving you through like, okay, yeah. Yeah, all right. I think you gave up enough in this lifetime. I think we've all suffered enough in 2020 to undo anything that we've messed up during Lent. I do love, wait, can you rewind for a second and tell me about going to Finland?
Yeah, so I was like, I got into an artist residency, and I was like, well, while I'm in Finland, I'm going to like maybe I would love to learn some like bushcraft or like foraging skills. So I reached out on the internets on Facebook, and someone hooked me up with these people. And at first there was like no connection. And then while I was working at a restaurant, I started doing like posting videos of like live streams of like whole animal butchery, and like other we used to get a lot of like specialty food people that would come in, and the great thing about this restaurant was like there's a brewery upstairs, and it was like kind of fancy, so they floated a lot of our like fancy like costs of food. And so then they're like, oh, you're like into this kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah. And they're like, you should come work for us. And so I was like, okay. So I didn't know who they were, and I like jumped on a plane, and they're like, okay, time to learn about spring foraging. And then I just like was thrown into this like beautiful like community in rural Finland. And they also had a catering business, so we did like I helped design the menus, which like is kind of unheard of, I think, if you're kind of new to
If
like
you're
a
new, yeah. They're very
yeah. And
gatekeepy usually. Usually.
yeah, so it yeah, usually. And so I was like, they're like, I'm helping to design menus, I'm helping take direction on like the fermentation program there. And we did like a lot of like upscale like we had a lot of upscale clients for like weddings and stuff. And some of the weddings were like beautiful. Like one of them was in this old like bunker on this island, and it was so, I don't know, it was nice, it's cool.
Yeah, Seven Bean Salad says foraging in Finland sounds like a great experience. It sounds very magical, and I think you've hit on something that I sort of subscribe to, which is the non-culinary. Did you ever go to culinary school? Sorry, first
No,
question. Okay,
no.
so I think I subscribe to that school of practical experience, and I don't think a lot of people know that artist residencies are something that can help you in a culinary career, especially if you're trying to be a little more experimental and do your own thing and make your own
Mhm.
sort of project and not a straightforward restaurant where you're serving direct customers. Because I mean, I think you and I are both proof that you can keep yourself very busy outside of the restaurant, like very busy outside of the restaurant, which is super exciting and cool, but people don't know that they can do that.
Mhm.
um and I think the fear or that at least the dissonance is that we don't really see ourselves as artists, because when you say residency, most of the time it says artist residency, and some places are really strict about what that means, but some of them have never actually considered having a culinary artist or culinary researcher or somebody who is like you and I, who really is past any definition of chef, which is so fascinating. So thank you for explaining the Finland thing, because I think there are just so many more opportunities for all of us out there, and we just sort of need to ask or and look into
Mhm.
it. And so I know that you've also, like, sorry, I'm gonna get distracted a lot. You've also gone to other places, so not just Finland, right? Like you've done other programs, other places. Like, can you briefly tell us like some of the other places you've been?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to remember.
All right, highlights.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I remember like this was kind of like a string of adventures that happened a year after I was working in a kitchen and I saved up a bunch of money. And then this particular photo is in Kamogawa, Japan, in the Chiba prefecture. And I'd actually met them because they were in Shenzhen, like looking into hardware manufacturing, and I met them years prior because I was interested in sort of like how electronics were made. And so then I found out they had this farm in Kamogawa, and I went to visit, and they were talking about the practice of eating insects. And then my friend Akiba, who was like, oh, like, you want to eat some insects? I know a guy. So he's like, Hiraki, like, come right away. Like, there's someone that wants to eat your bugs. And so
Someone that wants to eat your bugs.
yeah, I was expecting like someone to come a week later, and then like half an hour later, this guy shows up
That
with
day.
these like bags pre-blanched insects that he froze. And so this is how he preserved them, which was really interesting. And then these believe it or not, these are already been sautéed. So
Oh,
these are cicadas. They were about like this big, and you eat them in one bite. And this was like, I think, a point where I got over the fear of eating big, crunchy insects. The flavor. So you know how this year's Brood X and everyone's like
yes.
talking about Brood X. I'm like, I kind of wonder if I can eat any of them.
Yeah. My friend Kate it was born on the cycle. So every 17 years,
Yeah.
um, she knows that they're coming, and so she's turning 34. And she's gonna go drive into the brood. And I was like, "Are you sure about that? They're gonna get into everything. They're gonna get into the car."
Yeah.
Um,
I don't I don't know if like there's specific kinds of cicadas you can't eat, but these ones had an incredible flavor. Like it tasted like kind of vegetal, like a little bit like steamed bok choy and fresh
mm.
cashew butter. It was like
I mean, I wish I bet as we get into eating insects as a culture, there is going
mhm.
to be a study about terroir and um like I don't know, finding ways to influence that while they're in dormancy, which is really
Mhm.
fascinating. Let's see. Geo says that sounds super cool. Carl says I heard cicadas taste kind of like shrimp. I saw a tweet earlier today about that. That they're basically land shrimp. And if you do like shrimp, you might like this. They're not going to be as wet, right? They're not like veiny like a shrimp would be.
They're more
But
squishy. They
they were
have a nice
squishy.
like they're like nice crunchy shell, and then it was like kind of smushy, and I was like, this would be a great ravioli filling.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie says finally we have a solution for Brood X. uh, and then 2666, welcome to the chat. I don't think I've ever seen your username before. Shared a link to a Washington Post article, cicada cooking recipes. That was literally posted a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Hooray.
Thank you for that. I will tweet that later. I'm curious to see. I am a proponent of eating insects, though we are still at that early stage of it being a little expensive.
Mhm.
Whenever there's a new food, it hasn't really been democratized, and it's
I
mostly
also
been startups trying to
I
cash
don't
in
think
on it.
I don't think crickets are a great gateway insect
They are not.
into eating insects.
They
Yeah.
are a little tough to swallow, but I will say that in Mexico City, it is quite popular to have them as a snack at the bar. And I think for cricket specifically, one of the more palatable ways to get over that is to use cricket flour in baking and not necessarily, a leg sticking out of your teeth.
Mhm.
I know that is a lot mentally to get over for people. But I think I've been around it enough that it really doesn't scare me. The cicadas, on the other hand, are a little bigger. It's like I'm also already weird about eating shrimp. So,
They also have really adorable faces, so I was like looking at its face,
oh
and it was just like it was already dead, but it was just
no.
so cute.
It's like Butterfree from Pokemon. It's like
Yes. Yeah.
A few bad dudes asks, curious, is there a benefit to having them blanched as opposed to being prepared any other way? I think specifically for this case, the blanching was for freezing preservation. Is that right?
Mhm,
For this
mhm,
person.
yeah. Mhm,
I think a lot of the time they are dried and then fried, because that is long-term storage for some folks. But I actually haven't had them any other way besides crispy or ground up, so
hmm.
that I didn't see them anymore. Uh, I don't know. I'm curious. We'll have to check out this Washington Post article about eating them. Um, Yes, it's true, Charlie. I will read this here. Eating insects could be a big way to help us reduce carbon emissions. True. So worth continuing to experiment with them and introduce people to eating them as a general idea. It's true. There are more bugs in the world than people. And it's not a resource that we are going to deplete anytime soon. But we do have to be careful about imbalancing the environmental impact because bugs have a purpose. Like, spiders eat smaller bugs that may attack crops. If we start eating them as a delicacy, the crops are going to fail. So we need the bugs on some level. Um, let's see, what else? And they're a good source of protein. And I'm trying to reduce the amount of beef in my life because of, their what's it called? Their methane emissions and just the general practice of eating meat. I'm trying to lessen, but yeah, I think bugs are a good avenue, but we're not quite there yet with the information and the system yet of sourcing them. Oh, thank you, Gio, for gifting a sub to hey, Leanie. Cool. Welcome, hey, Leanie. Wonderful. Uh, so this was in Japan.
Mhm.
Um,
Hiroaki, apparently, I asked him what else he's eaten. He eats like anything he can find in the mountain. He even ate because there's mountain leeches
ah,
that like oh my gosh, no, it's terrifying. Like I love how anime is like, oh, Inaka, like the Japanese countryside, so peaceful. And then like I get there and they're like, so leeches that are usually in streams, well, they're exactly the same, but they can drop from the tops of trees.
hell no,
And
hell no,
yeah, it's a
hell no.
nightmare. And then as well as looking out for huntsman spiders, you have to look out for like is it the centipede millipede? I forget, but the ones with the giant stingers. And apparently, if you get stung, it feels like you've been like shocked, like it feels like an electric shock.
Mountain
Um,
bugs.
yeah,
Oh,
he's eaten all
y'all.
of those, and he's eaten all of those, and he says that the one, yeah, he says though apparently there's like concerns though over like some of them with hepatitis, like you don't want to get hepatitis, you have to
Oh,
like
because of the blood. Yeah,
be
interesting.
careful.
Yeah, leech.
Yeah,
It's.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a class of people who like pursue that, like adventure eating, like blowfish. Whatever. But I mean, that's cool that this person is like using every possible resource where they are. Uh,
Hmm.
but mountain leeches is a terrifying thought of just coming from above because you're usually just looking down into the water if you're like wading or getting out of
Yeah,
water, especially around your ankles. But that I
the
did
way
not
they
need to know.
walk the way
Bear
they
claw.
walk is also terrifying. They like inch
Oh,
too,
just like an inchworm.
and they stand on their ends, and I'm like, this shouldn't be allowed. Like,
It's a horror movie. I know, Bear
yeah.
Claw. I did not need to know about tree leeches. So sorry. Actually, not sorry. Here to terrify all of you and educate you. We're getting a lot of no and I in the chat. No. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for bringing the bugs to our attention. I mean, especially because of Brood-X. I think that's very relevant to the news today. Um, what is this lovely thing?
That's when I was visiting my friend in Hong Kong, and I really like sort of like this was like a mango sorbet in this like cone, and I just really like the formulation of like
Mm.
Asian fruit flavors and like ice creams. And this had like a really nostalgic flavor. Like I'm pretty sure there was like not much. It just tasted really icy and milky and comforting. And I
Mm.
would just and these were like $1. Like I would just like slam them back, and they were also incredibly refreshing. Um,
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of mango ice cream. I grew up with it. The cone shape here is lovely. It's
yeah.
it's very different there. And I think sometimes we have wafer cones that are like really blocky, and I don't think there's a lot of like balance or flavor to them, but this looks so cute.
Mhm.
Speaking of creamy, comforting flavors, I don't like honeydew as a fruit itself, but honeydew ice cream, I love it. Like there's a bar that you can get from H Mart or like any of the Asian specialty stores here. It's called Melona. So it's like a honeydew flavored milky popsicle, and it's my favorite. I don't I don't understand, like I don't get that extreme honeydew flavor from the fruit itself. It's like this amplified artificial flavor,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah, I'm always just like I know that like it's mango flavor, but it doesn't taste like mango, but like Asian like fruit flavor formulations are sometimes like creamier and more pleasant, and I enjoy them more than the actual fruit. Just guess
Mhm.
I guess why I wanted to share this. Yeah.
Is it less sweet, would you say, than over here?
I don't know, it's just milkier. It's
Milkier, yeah.
like milkier and milder. Yeah.
Yeah, Gio says so pretty. Yeah, it's a pretty good like swoop there.
I did it myself. It was at the
You
Seven
did?
Eleven.
Oh, the 7-Eleven. I love it. It's perfect. Even
Yeah.
more credit to the artist. Very good. Was there another flavor in the machine?
Nope.
No, that
Just
was it?
mango ice.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. That's great. Because here at our sort of bodega 7-Eleven situation, sometimes there's two, and that
Mm.
you can get individual or swirl it in the middle. Like if you were to ideally make your own machine, what would be the
Mhm.
two that you swirl in there?
I really like a good Concord grape ice. So it'd probably be like, yeah, like a Concord grape, and then maybe not mango, maybe like a vanilla
Mm,
or an almond. Yeah.
that sounds lovely. That sounds like a great combination. Yeah, I would go with my melon, and oh, I need something light. Maybe like a peachy vanilla. Like, so
Mm.
not a full sugar. I would probably lessen that, but one day I will have a swirl machine and you and I can fill it with whatever flavors we
That'd be
want.
delightful.
Wouldn't that be
Yes.
fun? I
Yes.
I buy so much equipment for my job, and I keep it. Like I don't rent things, I buy them. Like I have an ice shaver because one wedding asked me to do a shave ice, like Hawaiian style shave ice bar. So we did like five different kinds of syrups, and then mochi on top, and then chopped fruit and condensed milk. So
Have a feeling if you had just unlimited resources, you would just also go on AliExpress and buy like the food processing equipment to build like factory lines. Like you would be making your own cereal. Like I feel like you'd
uh-huh,
be that person. Yeah.
uh-huh. I've looked into making Triscuits myself, which is not something you can do in a home kitchen. You have to have a little bit of industrial threshing machine, but I think about these things. One day I will have like a Willy Wonka factory uh, of all this weird equipment that people can rent.
You ever
Hey,
get
oh,
oh
sorry, go on.
sorry. Do you ever get into a hole on food processing YouTube, like that corner of YouTube?
No, no.
Yeah, a lot of factories will be like, this is where we put the thing in to make cereal or like dried mangoes, and they'll show you the entire process.
Oh, like how did how it's made, that kind of
And
stuff.
their formulations, but it's done by the factory.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to send me your favorites. Uh, Bear Claw says, my town smells like Concord grapes every fall. That is amazing. Wow. That sounds lovely. Shmas, welcome. Glad you can make it. I talked about your lemon yogurt cake earlier. You'll have to tell us how it tasted and how it was, what it looked like on the inside, because we only saw the outside. 26 says electricity biscuits. Seven Bean Salad says big companies give processed food a bad name. It's true. More eccentric snacks. I agree. We love eccentric snacks on this stream. Yes. Let's see. What's this thing? Oh, we've got a whole meal, and I see big leaves.
Yeah.
Please tell me
Uh,
what's going on.
So this was a friend's birthday that a friend and I prepared in a small town in Panama called Gamboa, and so we
Panama.
were yeah yeah I was hired to like be a documentation person for this conference called the Digital Naturalism Conference, where like scientists and artists
Amazing.
and researchers like come together and create tools for research, or like explore like art and science and technology. And so on my friend's birthday, we there's this girl from Hawaii, and we were talking about sort of foraging banana leaves, and we're like, oh, there's like tea leaves and banana leaves everywhere. So
Wow.
we looked for clean ones for the presentation of the dinner. So we like picked them right at the edge of the jungle, and then we brought them back, and I cleaned the hell out of them because
Yes.
I'm terrified of bat poo. I mean, it's okay, but like bat poo has like can have a lot of like scary things in it. So I was just we washed the leaves very thoroughly, used a little bit of like a bleach solution. So we made like dumplings and these. I also love going to like markets and other countries. So
Me
we got a
too.
lot of like fresh seafoods, these like giant shrimp that also had such intense shells that they like pierced my skin. And they were like incredibly pointy too. And
Oh,
then I don't know if it's a kind of passion fruit, but maracuya, which is a
yes.
passion fruit, but I don't know if it's a specific like kind. They were like the most incredible passion fruit ever.
I've had them before. Delicious.
Yeah, yeah, and then grilled vegetables with like a lemon dressing, and then poached rambutans in ginger syrup, and that was like our
Wow.
whole spread. Yeah.
Wow. Um, I'm going to echo LT's comment. Panama! Exclamation point. um, Both schmass and seven bean salad are like, those shrimp are so big.
Uh huh. Like that big.
Yeah, they were so big. Schma says the yogurt cake was honestly a letdown. Oh no, texturally like a cheesecake, but just didn't have a lot of flavor in the shortbread crust nor the filling. Well, now you
What if
know
you
how you can
could
fix
you
it.
have like put a syrup on it or soaked it
You can,
somehow?
yeah, you can still save a cake by poking it. This is actually a YouTube mom hack, which is using the back of a wooden spoon or the end to poke a bunch of holes in a cake. And then you can pour in a custard, chocolate syrup, or
Mm.
simple syrup to fill it in if you think that it wasn't so flavorful. LT, welcome to the chat. If you're just entering the chat and catching up, I have my friend Ananda here from Toronto, who is talking about some of the photos that they sent in of travels and dishes that you made, which is really fun. Uh, okay. So Schmas put a raspberry sauce on top afterward. Still not ideal. Oh no, I hate it when there's like a consecutive amount of like disappointment in a dish. But I hope you'll try that again or refine it someday. But this is such a lovely meal. I sort of miss having those kinds of dinner parties. I know that we're gonna start to have those kinds of experiences again, but like this is a highlight for me that I love doing myself. Like it's so fun. uh, Bat poop. You're cracking me up. um Actually, have you heard of fruit bat curry?
No, but I do know that people eat bats. I just haven't looked into the recipes that involve
Mhm.
bat meat.
Yeah,
Elaborate.
it's like well, I'm working on a book that's coming out like another year from now, but it's all about island cooking and resilience. And while we're not going to have a recipe for it because it's it's not, easily
Mhm.
made, but it is something that we're going to talk about, which is eating locally and eating what is available to you. And it's really interesting to trace the history of curry all along Southeast Asia and India and across oceans. It's very
Mhm.
fascinating the parallels that you see between very distant and disparate island groups having very similar cooking techniques and ingredients, which is very
Yeah.
fascinating. And that lends to the weather, colonization, lots of other things. It's a very, very multi-pronged story, but fruitbat curry is one of them that we're going to be researching a lot over the next.
Does it have like a coconut milk or like yogurt or like what does is it
I think it's
creamy at all?
more of the
Oh no, the
Southeast
internet.
Oh, did your internet go out? Uh-oh. I think you're still here.
I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
here.
you're here.
Yeah.
It didn't look creamy. I think it may have not been dairy, but more of like a crushed nut situation and
Mm,
more on the spicy side.
okay,
But
cool.
I will share more about that when I learn more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is our last one that you sent in. What is this lovely little bite?
This was also in Panama. I because we spent a lot of time in that town. Oh no. Okay. Sorry. For a second I thought it was frozen. Because we spent a lot of time in that town, and we were eating mostly just like very like simple food, of like beans and rice and like meats because we had to feed a lot of people. Well,
Mhm.
I wasn't cooking, but other people were cooking. I was like, I kind of want to explore sort of like like a history of Panama's cuisine told through a menu. So I did some research and I found a restaurant called Maito. And what I really, really loved about their restaurant is not only did they like do really well in sourcing, but they like Panama. I also worked as a barista because I also want to go back to the farm in Japan and like and help run their cafe. So I worked as a barista for a bit, and what I really love about Panama is there's like a really great coffee culture, and there's like really great beans that are grown and processed there. And so on the tasting menu, there were a lot of pairings with sort of like coffee and the byproducts of coffee and made into sauces or paired with dishes like wine.
Mm,
This was one of them. This was a cauliflower. I think it was in a geisha cascara. So like the red sort of like outer shells
got
of
it.
the coffee. And that's normally like you can buy that as a tea. And I noticed that it's been in a lot of main ingredient in like ready to drink beverages. But it was made into a sauce and then it was paired with like a very like lemony, milk chocolatey, like light roast. Yeah, I was really impressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee myself, but I do appreciate what it lends to the cooking process. Um, it's fascinating. I'm seeing a lot of espresso powder in chocolate recipes because I think the acidity and the roastiness brings out more of that chocolatey flavor. It kind of
Mm,
gives it a boost. And there's a place here also in Brooklyn that does barbecue, and they have coffee grounds in their meat rubs
mhm,
because as you're smoking meat, you're also smoking the outside when so it's smoking the
mhm,
coffee, which then is oil soluble. When all the fat is coming off of the meat, it's like mixing together and brewing sort of a interesting meaty drip like sauce,
mm,
which is very fascinating. But I don't think there's enough material out there right now about cooking with coffee. There's a lot about pairing a brewed cup of coffee
mhm.
with pastries and things like that, but not the other way around, which is incorporating it more into the cooking process. So this is super fascinating, and especially using that outer shell. Like I don't think that is something people knew that they could cook with at
Mhm,
all.
yeah, yeah. I've seen it like a lot as tea. Like you can buy it online, and it's quite like mild in flavor. It tastes nothing like coffee, but yeah, the fact that this like rich gravy came out of it, and of course, there's probably like a demi in there of maybe from some sort of like animal to like help build the sauce. But it was pretty great.
Yeah, amazing. Here in the chat, Charlie asks, which barbecue joint are you referring to that has coffee grounds in its rub? It is Feta Sow on Metropolitan Avenue in Williamsburg. I think they are open still right now, and you can order from them. But yeah, I can't have too much coffee product, or I will explode. I'm too sensitive, way too sensitive. But that is the last photo you sent me. And so I'm
Mhm.
going to stop sharing my screen here. Friends, if you would like to share your cooking photos with us, we would love to feature you on the show next week. So just tag me on Instagram and Twitter at Randwiches. And so for this part of the show, maybe for the next 10 minutes, we'd love to answer your questions and talk about chaos snacks. So Ananda, what did you mean by chaos snacks? Can you tell the people?
I feel like it came from, it's a chaos snack is essentially just using whatever you have in your pantry and being as creative as possible you can to make a tasty snack. I feel like it came out of this like, by calling it a chaos. So by calling it a chaos snack, you could like liberate yourself from sort of the expectations of food culture that is so obsessed with authenticity, and sometimes it feels like gatekeeping, and it feels like incredibly like constricting, yeah. And
Yes.
like sometimes all I wanted to do was just have like a tasty snack. So calling it a chaos snack was just to get over this mental barricade. And I think like an example of this would be like one of my new favorite things in making like maki rolls, so like sushi rolls, is putting like julienne apples into it. It's like super crunchy and like bright, and it adds it's a nice, it's not too a confrontational flavor. I don't know how to really describe that.
A friendly
And then
flavor,
another
yeah.
one, a friendly flavor, and
Yeah.
then making Chinese soy milk. There's one time of my food club and I like experimented. We made like a saffron soy milk with like chili oil on it, and that
Oh
was
my
like really
gosh, that
interesting.
sounds fun. I've had a Taiwanese savory soy milk here in
Mm.
Williamsburg, and it came with a donut, like the plain unsweetened long donut. I forget the name of it.
Yo tiao.
Yo
I think
Tao,
it's
there you go. Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of the chaos snack practice. I mean, my username is randwiches, random sandwiches. And my whole thing was delivering sandwiches that people didn't know that they were getting. Like they would pay for it, but they wouldn't know what they were getting. And I think that was part of the fun and the spontaneity of it. And it's just really funny how sick of the food around you, like you get sick of it really quickly, like getting the same takeout like every day. There's this really funny um I don't know, trend in Midtown Manhattan. So I used to work at an office, the uh, and all of the places in Silicon Alley or like 25th Madison Square Park is all bucket food or like scooped food. So there's a place called Dig In where they have like roasted vegetables, but you get like a rice underneath or like a salad underneath, but everything is like in this bucket form of like scoops. And I got really tired of it, and so I started making my own random sandwiches, and then when I quit, I just started delivering random sandwiches all over, and people were very excited by it because there's no menu. You don't have to choose because someone else is doing it for you. And I'm all about that. And I'm not necessarily random about how I cook for people. It's just kind of, it is what is around. Like what is
Mhm.
in my farmer's market, what is in my corner bodega, and what is in my pantry, because my pantry is crazy.
Yeah. I even also find that like even there's a lot of pressure for a home cook who's like aware of sort of the ingredients involved in making something taste like authentic.
Hmm.
That there's also this pressure for like technique under like technique fetishization is like to really like get a technique right in making something, and I find that that can be so much pressure when you just want a meal or a snack. Like um yeah, so I feel like just developing sort of like the practice of a chaos snack and learning how to just go with the flow is really important.
Yeah, like how do you approach that? Number one, I think in my mind, I need some kind of substrate, or something to hold, or something to dip.
Mhm.
So I think a lot about chips, or I always have chips in my house. I don't necessarily have loaves of bread all the time, but chips I always have. uh, or I can make my little savory donut or pizza dough. Sometimes I have uncooked pizza dough in the freezer, and will make different
Mhm.
shapes like a garlic knot and use that as like a slider for sandwiches. So I had a garlic knot and egg sandwich this morning for breakfast. Um, yeah, like, so how would someone change the way they look around them at their pantry and kitchen?
Oh man,
I
I
know.
don't know how to answer that.
I mean,
Um,
we can just talk through it. It's fine. It's like,
yeah.
so maybe they don't have that lens of like the potential of every ingredient in the house yet. So like,
Mhm.
how do we jumpstart that, or how do we get inspired to pick something?
I think a key thing is not so much about the ingredients, but learning about how to achieve a particular craving
Mm,
with seasoning, because
yes,
so like what makes the salty thing, what makes the sour thing? If you don't have the lemon, what could you use? If you don't have the crunch, what else do you have? So just like
yes.
what textures and seasonings do you really want in that snack? And then what kind of do you want the snack to be related to? And then what do you have that can make up that fantasy?
I think
Yeah.
that's a great prompt for a lot of people here. I think the exercise later when we pretend we're on Chopped is going to be very illustrative of that. But catching up here in the chat here. Oh, Leah is here. Coffee on Leak, according to the book Aroma de Kunst de Wurzens by Virik Vilgus. I need to see this book. It's about aroma, apparently. LT says favorite place in Williamsburg is Sweet Chick. I agree. Sweet Chick is a chicken and waffles joint. So good. Seven Bean Salad has a mixed MIXT. It's like a startup-y salad bucket restaurant. um, it's okay. Shma says I spent one summer refusing to go to the grocery store when I was like 16. Just cleaned out my pantry and freezer for over a couple of months, and there were some wild combos that came out. But it's so fun to just get crazy. This is exactly what we're talking about. Um, I need to force myself after I finish these next couple cookbooks. I'm going to not shop for a while and just only get fresh vegetables from the farmer's market because I have a very, very full freezer and a very, very full pantry. Um, Ocho Robo says, ask a few bad dudes about ketchup and jelly sandwiches. What?
I've had ketchup sandwiches, but not like ketchup and jelly. That sounds super.
What? I mean, I get it. Like, I could see it. Because jellies can sometimes be like chutney like, which is spicy and
Mm,
savory. So depends on what the jelly is, I guess. Maybe, maybe. Ketchup and hot pepper jelly makes total sense.
yeah.
So that's kind of like sweet chili sauce, that combination. Um, let's see. Ooh, Leah says coffee on cauliflower. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very wonderful thought combination there. Um, so I'm trying to think what's my latest chaos snack besides the one I showed you on my very colorful pants. Trying to look around my house here. Oh, I've been eating a lot of that trout dip with Fritos and then crushed up peanuts because I think I always gravitate toward texture. Like I always want a crunchy. So I usually have a big Asian bucket of fried garlic in my house. Anything that's sprinkly. And I kind of I'm terrible about this, but I hoard the ends of chip bags or crisp bags. I will refuse. I'll roll it up and put it in the cabinet and then forget it's there. But then when I'm making a sandwich or just something is like a burrata is just like I need something on top of it. I don't want to use salt. I'll crush up some potato chips, like put it on there
Damn.
and eat that. Like a slab of mozzarella with like crushed potato chips or like crushed pretzels. Like the very bottom of a chip bag or pretzel bag has still so much seasoning at the bottom. Or what's another one? I use a lot of ramen seasonings on things, uh, on popcorn and on
Mm,
various other flavor situations that are not what it was intended for. And I think that's what's
mhm,
really fun for me as well is thinking about like what is this intended for? How can I turn that around?
mhm. Oh, I forgot. Kind of relates to like um So I got into a game jam at the Evergreen Brickworks with the Hand-Eye Society in Toronto, and I made a game related to the farmers market there called Chaos Coursing. And
What?
so I made these like tarot cards, and then people would be like, I'd be like, what kind of meal do you want to make, like a 3-course meal, or like or do you want to, or like a lunch or a light snack? And they would pick one, and that like would determine the layout of the meal. And then when you flip the cards over, it would be like organized by like meat, the kind of seasoning, whether it was hot or cold, and also like what kind of dessert it would be.
That
It
is
was really
so
interesting.
cool. Yeah, Geo says hand-eye is super cool. Wow. And yes, it's true, Shmas. I am the queen of emergency nachos. I can make nachos out of anything. Trust me. Um, LT says chaos snack, mayo and banana sandwich. I would try it.
I'd
I would.
try it.
I would try it. I think
Yeah.
that's my philosophy in general, is that I would try it. That is so cool. You're gonna have to share if you did any write-up of it, or have any pictures. I want to see that.
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
very much reminds me of, I did an installation in a box truck in a U-Haul one winter. It was called the Fairy Godmother Sandwich Shop. And you would come in, I was a fairy godmother, and I would come in and ask people questions and try to tell their fortune through the sandwich that I made them, which was great. You know, I'd ask
oh
them
man.
like, how did you feel when you woke up today, or like, when is your birthday, did you put on your left shoe or your right shoe first? Just like seemingly random questions, but actually did correlate to ingredients and methods that I had mapped out a long time ago. And so I had it all in my head, and so it was just like a choice map of all these things. And then I would just make these sandwiches, and people would be like, how did you come up with this? And I'm like, magic.
The fate, the
I'm your
fate of the
godmother.
stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't believe it. We are already near the end of the show, so we're going to move on to our final exercise together with the chat. Oh yes, Carl, you're right. It was Lost Horizon Night Market. You knew what I was talking about. And LT says the mayo and banana sandwich is a real thing in the Carolinas and Southern Virginia area. I had no idea. I I will ask my friends who are chefs in that area. I'm very curious about that. But let's move on to our last segment of the show, friends. Let me just read this for you. Let's pretend we're on Chopped. So if you don't know this TV show, it is a basket with 4 mystery ingredients in it, and chefs have to use those to make a dish. So in our case, you, the chat, will tell us what's in that basket. So please shout out an ingredient for us to put in the basket. The first 4 will be the ones we use, so be quick about it. Sorry if we don't use your ingredient, but try again next week. There are no wrong answers. The purpose of the exercise is to think about how far ingredients can go and maybe might inspire your next meal. I'll go through each of the ingredients individually just so that everybody knows what you're working with. But just start feeling free, like spitballing how you combine 2, 3, or all 4 of the ingredients. Imagine you have a basic pantry and all the tools and time that you need. Just remember to feature stuff in that basket. Oh gosh, Gwem. All right, first ingredient. Gwem says a large sack of onions. Leah says apple. I'm going to skip your second one there. We'll do apple. So large sack of onions, apple from Leah. The Bear Claw says salt and vinegar chips. And Charlie with the cicadas. Very sorry. Very sorry we have to use the cicadas. But in your answers, you do not have to use all 4 ingredients. You can use 2 of them. Or, you know, up to all 4 if you feel the challenge. But let's go with large sack of onions, apple, salt and vinegar chips, and the cicadas. I like that, actually. I feel like we've talked a lot about onions on this stream, but they are an allium. They have a papery, papery skin that you need to take off. They have a root end that you can actually grow again, more onion shoots, which is very exciting. They can be caramelized, they can be served raw, they can be pickled, all sorts of ways. You can grill them any which way you can think. You can cook an onion. Apples, also the same thing. I feel like we've spoken about that a lot as well. There are a lot of nutrients in the skin. They can be eaten raw, they can be shaved, they can be grated, they can be cut into noodles, they can be baked, they can be fried, they can put in a pie, they can apply in many situations, sweet and savory. Have you ever thought of having an apple in a ceviche? Lovely texture. Salt and vinegar chips. This is really funny. I love this because I'm a huge fan of salt and vinegar chips. The vinegar portion of it, sometimes it depends on what brand it is not necessarily vinegar. Sometimes it's citric acid, which gives you a little bit of like a burning sensation on your tongue. But it is dry and it's a powder. Salt and vinegar chips you can use as chips as the medium, or you can constitute them with egg and make it into a tortilla situation, or you can crush them onto things and use it as flavoring as a shake for popcorn or something like that. And cicadas we had spoken about earlier, as a potential protein. They can be blanched, they can be fried, they can be dried and ground up into a flour and then used as you would any other baking flour, just as an alternative flour. It may hydrate differently because it doesn't have any gluten, but you would supplement with either an all-purpose or a buckwheat or something like that if you really needed lift and gluten and stretchiness in a dough. But those are our 4 ingredients. Again, large sack of onions, apple, salt and vinegar chips, and cicadas. Ananda, are you thinking of anything already?
I'm kind of stuck. I don't
It's
know. I'm
okay. You don't
figuring it out.
have to. Gwem says serious ingredient. You can get a sack of onions from a corner shops here in London, super cheap. So I feel like they could be a great thrifty ingredient. Exactly. They are pretty cost effective and versatile. One thing I really like to do with a big amount of onions is to caramelize a lot of them because, caramelization does take like 40 minutes to an hour to do. But once you've made that condiment, you can put it on so many things. It could be part of your chaos snack process. And then you can also freeze that caramelized onion jam for later. So there's just a lot of applicability there.
I did
Geo, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I did think of a quick thing.
Yes.
So like finely chopped apples and pickled onions with in a like the cicada paste that I really like, and then just use it as a dip for salt and vinegar chips. I think
There
it'd
you
be super
go.
tasty.
Yeah. Like we could do like a caramelized onion like dip, like a Frenchy onion situation
Yeah.
with like sour cream, and then make some like crisp cicada chips. Like, so if I made a flour out of the bugs, we
Yeah.
could make tortillas and fry this up and have chips, which is very exciting. Let's see. Geo says, sounds like you can probably pickle brine the cicadas in an apple onion thing and then fry them in a coating of the chips and panko. Ooh. Oh, yes. Leah has some good advice. Pressure cooker for the onions. Caramelize them in 30 minutes. Yes. We have an idea from Shmas here. We could do like an Iraqi style dolma where the onion is the wrapper and then stuff it with like a filling of meat, little apple bits, cicada flour, and then season with salt and vinegar and a bunch of fresh herbs. That sounds like a great idea. A dolma situation. Sounds very fun. Gwem says a vegetable soup, onion and carrot, gratinated with the crisps, maybe. Ooh, gratin. Good direction there. You'd need a lot more chips because they're so thin, but I like that thought very much. Very, very much. There was a really funny like cooking hack on Serious Eats, which was grab a bag of potato crisps and toss it in some beaten egg, and then you've got like a shortcut Spanish tortilla.
I've been witness to that many times, and sometimes it does not work, and sometimes very rarely does it work.
Yes, I think you've got to like sort of finish it in the oven because it doesn't quite uniformly work. But I think if you pressed it and have enough chips, it would work. Let's see. Bear Claw says caramelized apple and onion sauce in cicada flour ravioli, then coated in the chips and fried. Oh, we've got a lot of same brain here. Seven Bean Salad says pierogies. which are the Polish dumplings with cicada apple onion filling and breaded with chips. That is lovely there. I like that idea very much. Everybody's got dumpling on the brain. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame you because they're one of the perfect foods. Again, if you are just joining us here in the chat, we are trying to figure out how would you combine in a dish onions, apple, salt and vinegar chips, and cicadas, prepared any which way possible. One of the exercises that I do, friends, is think of something I already know how to make, something very easy, like a sandwich. How would you swap in those ingredients? Or if it was a cocktail, or if it was a salad or a soup, how would you swap in one or two of the ingredients? This is great. These are all such good ideas. I feel like we're really pushing the envelope with the with the cicadas. Yeah, it's true, Bear Claw. There is a reason most cultures have a dumpling. Yeah. It's like everything evolving into crabs. Yes. Welcome to the chat, Gigi Gold. Thanks for following. Wait, LT, this is awkward because I'm watching a show called Apple and Onion. I've never heard of this show that you're talking about. Please do tell. Rufo says breaded cicadas using the chips. Oh yeah, you can crush up the chips and then bread the cicadas and deep fry those. Shma says this also feels like it would be a weirdly good trail mix if we just dehydrate all the wet stuff. You're right, we could dehydrate the apple. I haven't really had a good, we could do a fried onion.
I
Yeah.
thought of something really gross.
Yes.
So make like a little sausage, the thick sausage thing with some stabilizers with cicada apple and the onions. Just make like a sausage and then make a batter with salt and vinegar chips and turn it into a corn dog.
Yes! We found a way. We found a way to bring corn dogs into this. Oh, I love that. That's so funny. Like, so I was experimenting. I feel like you might have seen this recently that I was experimenting with alternative corn dogs, which was like baby zucchini in the same corn dog batter. One of the ideas that we went with was Japanese turnip that we've just skewered like 3 of them. So it's this cute little like dots deep fried. So we could do that with tiny baby what's it called, apples, like they're, I forget what they're called, they're like this big, tiny apples. We could have like
Crab
corn dogs,
apples?
crab apples, yeah. So we could do a crab apple, tiny onion, crab apple, corn dog batter made with the cicada flour. Deep fry that. How cute is that? That's adorable. I love that. Leah says in Austria there is a traditional dish to deep fry apple rings in batter. You could make batter out of the rest. Oh, hell yeah. You know what? We never said onion rings, everybody. We could do apple rings and onion rings using cicada flour. And then just have a side of apple vinegar, vinegar chips, salt and vinegar chips. Yeah, corn dog everything. Just corn dog everything. Just canceled. We're just gonna corn dog everything. Seven bean salad is like one more idea here. Maybe some sort of apple tuna melt situation, but with cicada paste. Oh, what if we did like a condiment of like, what if we made like a chili crisp with like the cicadas? Like that would be fun.
I feel like we'd have to dehydrate the cicadas because they're like wet nuggets. They're like
Oh,
when you fry
okay.
them, they're really
Please
mushy.
don't say that again.
Wet
Wet
nuggets.
nuggets. I'm sorry, everybody. Wet nuggets. Oh, that's so funny. Gwem says a savory crumble could work with these ingredients. Yes, we could do an apple onion crumble. That sounds lovely. Oh, like a tart. I've had a galette. I've had an onion galette before. That sounds great. Okay, some insight about this show, Apple and Onion. It's a cartoon based on problem solving in a world of humanized food, which makes me think they would figure out how to turn themselves into a meal. That is very dark, but also I am interested in it. But friends, last call for ideas. How would you combine onion, apple, salt and vinegar chips, and cicadas? And you know what? If you are stumped, please feel free to hit me up again on Twitter with your idea because sometimes I get pressured. I can't think of stuff right away. That's totally fine. Um, But Ananda, can you tell people how to find you online, and if there's anything that you're working on that they can check out?
Yeah. Okay. You can find me at A__Gabo on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then things that I'm working on right now. One is a journal and peer review journal and conference on ancestral knowledge, community science, and creative biology, because that's like something I love. And
Mm-hmm.
then right now I'm just doing a bit of research on Cantonese barbecue, because eventually sometime maybe in a year I'd like to open up a Chinese barbecue pop-up. So if you ever want to like, yeah, talk about that or go into barbecue nerd mode, hit me up.
Yes, I would love to nerd mode with you, and let me know when it is if you need another pair of hands, because I'm
Yeah.
willing to fly anywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
After all this is over. Oh my gosh.
You're so
Um,
welcome.
yes, I would love to do that. But thank you so much for doing this with me. I feel like we learned a lot and talked about our creative practice, which I don't really get to do very often. I think you opened a lot of windows for people today, especially with the cicadas and thinking about chaos snacks and looking around at your pantry in a new way, which is very, very enlightening. So friends, thank you for watching. If you've got photos to share with me, or comments or follow-up dishes from this round of Chopped, please do tag me, Ranwiches, on Twitter and Instagram. Next week, oh my gosh, I should always be prepared. uh, i'm I'm always so ill prepared for the end of the show, but I want to tell you who is joining me next week. So next week on Attack the Pantry, 5 p.m. Eastern, we are joined by Sean Ludwig from New York City Barbecue. So lovely that we were talking about barbecue. We're actually going to get somebody who organizes a lot of barbecue events and runs a newsletter called The Smoke Sheet. So join me next week here on Attack the Pantry, 5 p.m. Eastern, with Sean Ludwig to talk about barbecue. And I hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. Goodbye.